right, welcome one and all to the Rocks and Roots podcast. It is, as always, they're always extra special episodes, but this is an extra special episode because we have another guest on this evening with us. I am Tumbles, and with me, as always, is
Cranky on the other side of the state again. And today we have Tony Montana. Tony is an avid hiker, an Adirondack 46er, and he's working on his winter 46. And he's also started exploring slides and winter hiking with another popular Instagrammer, Brian Hikes All Day, which is how we got connected with Tony. So welcome, sir. How's everything going this evening?
Everything's great. Thank you for having me on.
Now, Tony, do you have a trail name, or are you just Tony Montana?
I'm just Tony Montana. People do call me Tex, like my Instagram handle, Tex Montana. But really, it's just Tony. Everyone calls me Tony, or other names sometimes.
Just don't call you late for dinner. I'm here all week.
Never.
All right. Well, yes, thank you once again. Tony and I have been back and forth for, I would say, a month and a half now trying to secure this episode. I had contacted Brian initially because he was being a crazy man with all of his slides, and like Crank said, we were super impressed. And then he's like, well, why don't you also get in contact with my friend Tony? And I said, well, of course. So Brian, if you are listening to this, we can't wait to have you on as well, hopefully sooner than later. So without further ado, can you just tell us a little bit about you and your background, Tony? How'd you get into this silly hobby?
Gosh, the silly hobby. Really kind of by accident. I was actually hiking locally and a little bit in the lower Adirondacks looking for waterfalls originally, taking photos. And I was having a blast doing that. And a roommate at the time was just like, you should go to the High Peaks region and work on the 46. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I was like, never heard of it. Don't even know what it is. And then come to find out, this guy I've known for like 20 years was a 46er himself. He had gotten it when he was 13 years old. I was like, oh, this is amazing. He explained to me about the Adirondacks and the High Peaks. And so I decided just on a whim, just drive up and do Giant Mountain.
So that was your first?
That was my first hike, and I think it was either 2011 or 2012. It was just my first actual mountain hike, and I did not do Rocky Ridge at the time. Giant was plenty enough in my conditions. It took me a week to recover. It just destroyed me, and for some reason, I loved every second of it. And like 3 weeks later, I was back at it again and working on the Colvin Range. It really just kind of bit me, and I stopped carrying the camera on. I stopped looking for waterfalls, and I was just like, it's all high peak hiking for me from then on out.
Now, the Golden Range, what peaks are in that range?
Colvin and Blake.
Oh, Colden. I'm sorry. I was like, what's the Golden Range? Colden. Okay.
Sorry.
No. That's all right. I was like, there's a Golden Range. Really? That sounds lovely.
No. Colvin and Blake, and then Nippletop and Dial. Those were my next hikes after Giant. And it just bit me so hard. I couldn't stop going back.
Oh, wow. Did you do them all in one day or bit by bit?
Back then, it was just bit by bit. Giant was a solo shot for me. Colvin and Blake, it took me twice to actually to go out to Blake. Nippletop and Dial, I did that in one shot, but it was early days when I was not quite nearly as fit, and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. One mountain a day back then, I was just like, holy cow, I can't believe I just did one mountain. This is unbelievable.
Well, our most recent, it's really interesting that you said Giant was your first. Our most recent was Giant, and we consider ourselves average, fairly in shape, and it was icy and it was absolutely gorgeous. So we were stopping and taking pictures every 2 minutes. It took us almost 6 hours just to do Giant.
Just to get to the top, or the whole round trip?
The
whole round trip.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been concerned myself if it took us 6 hours to get to the top. Well, it was Columbus. Was it Columbus Day weekend? It was Columbus Day weekend, and that was when the temp dipped into like the teens, and we had at elevation ice and snow, and right across Route 73 it was gold and red everywhere. So it was like the ice and fire hike.
Oh, that's so awesome.
It was amazing.
Is there any particular reason you did Giant as your first, or just because that's the first one when you drive into the park from that direction?
When I did a search on Google, Giant was the first one that showed up. And that's really why I picked it. I was like, oh, okay. And back then I had, it was called Every Trails. It was like an app before All Trails was out. And that did pretty much exactly the same thing. And Giant came up really quick on a search for theirs. So I was like, I'll just go for this one and check it out.
It's not a bad one to start because it's doable, but especially as a novice, it is pretty demanding.
It is. I mean, it's right out of the gate too. It's not. There's no lead up to it. You're climbing as soon as you walk out the car door.
Yes.
So, how long did it take you to do your 46?
So my initial 46 took me. Let's see. What does it say? I finished it in 18. So it took me 6 years for my initial 46. Then in 2019, I decided I was going to just do it in 3 months and repeated the 46.
Oh, wow. I mean, throughout your 6 years of your initial 46, what was the hardest peak versus your 3 months? Was there any change?
The Santanoni range.
Okay.
And going out to Kuchasaga. Back then, when the first time I did it, it absolutely destroyed me. I was not prepared for it physically. And going out to Kuchasaga, I'm not sure if you guys have done those yet.
No.
Not yet.
But, you pretty much get up to elevation there, Panther, and then you drop, a good 1,000 foot just to climb up a mountain that you have to backtrack on. And it's just such a brutally long hike. And we went out, it was like 85 degrees, super humid. So it felt like it was about 120. The bugs were out completely, and it just wrecked us. We actually skipped the whole range, did Cooch only, and went back to our cars just with our tails between our legs.
I mean, at least you got one in.
Yes. Since then, now I go out there, I grab all 3 of them at a time. And they don't get skipped at all. It's just kind of funny, the evolution of your own body through all the years of doing this and becoming more of like an endurance hiker than anything.
I assume you live in the park or you're close by?
Rochester, New York. I'm about 4.5 to 5 hours away from the park.
Oh, wow. Just like us then. Okay.
Yeah, just like us.
Wow.
All right. That's fascinating. Okay. So what overall, I'm assuming you just told us, but what overall was your least favorite and then your favorite? Both in your initial and then in your 6 months?
Let's see. Kuchasaga is probably my most unfavorite hike that I did at that time. But after that, going into like my short, quick 46er, Haystack just takes the cake. Haystack Mountain is just fantastic. It's a small little summit. It's a full 360 looking at Marcy, looking back up the Great Range, out towards Giant. And it's such an unbelievable mountain. Every time I've done it, it's like 7 times now. Every time I've done it, I've liked it that much more. It's just like, yep, this is why I've been doing it. This is the view.
I've heard from more than one person that Haystack is one of the best views in the high peaks.
Oh, you can't get wrong with it.
But that is where you received an injury?
Yes. So I was actually coming down Marcy. I hadn't fully gotten down to the col between Marcy and the trail up to Haystack. And I had taken a funny step. I'd never actually even fell. but I took a funny step where my ankle just rolled out. I broke my leg. I broke my ankle in 3 spots, and I tore the ligament that holds the ankle together.
Oh my gosh!
And this caused my foot just to dislocate.
Over just one step.
Just from a step. It was just from a misstep. It wasn't like I was jumping or anything. I was just coming down the trail, and it's a steep section of trail there coming off the backside of Marcy heading the Haystack. It's known for being kind of rough.
Mm-hmm.
What specific trail is that? I'm sorry.
What is the name of that trail? It's part of the range trail. So if you're be the southwest side of Marcy, heading towards Haystack, would meet up with the Phelps Trail, I believe, that heads down to JBL.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right. Yes, I have a kind of a picture of where you are now. Okay. Wow. So how did you get back to the lodge? How did you get,
out of there?
I was a complete rescue. I'm one of them.
Oh, wow.
My nephew, who was actually with me at the time, he decided to jog down the mountain and got down to JBL, and they reached the DEC and got somebody to come out and check me out. They dropped a ranger by helicopter on Marcy. He hiked down to me and determined that I was to be flown out. They weren't going to let me walk down. The guy was awesome. I mean, his name was Pete. I don't know what his last name. He was a ranger, but he was fantastic. He threw a splint on me, and honestly, if he let me, I would have walked down the mountain. He did such a great job.
Wow.
It was interesting, though. They threw a harness on me, and a helicopter came down and yanked me right off the freaking mountain, right into a helicopter. I'm not really good at that kind of heights. It scared the crap out of me.
I bet.
I was going to say, other than the injury and the fact that you were in shock and in pain, that's got to be a really cool memory. Were you able to appreciate any of the views dangling like the fish on a hook above the peaks?
So initially, I don't know if you're familiar with the Looney Tunes cartoons. When they pulled me up, I went right into a tree. And I got dragged up a tree, and I hit every branch as I was being pulled out of above tree line. So that was amusing. And then
we have a visual in our heads, I'm sure.
Yeah, they yanked me right into the helicopter, and I wish I could have gotten in my pockets to pull out my phone because they flew me over the whole Great Range. It was just phenomenal. Just the views of it, and they stayed low, so it was pretty nice just flying right through John Brooks Valley.
All right, you heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. If you want to get the best views, pick a good time of the year, pick some good flying conditions, and get yourself rescued. That's how
get yourself
you
rescued. So 5 days later, I had surgery on my ankle, and it took me 6 months, and then I was on my first Adirondack hike on the Tupper Lake Triad, doing the little small mountains up there. So it took 6 months of healing and physical therapy to get me going.
I mean, that in retrospect, that's really not bad.
Not bad at all.
No, I mean, a friend of mine, he had a Liz Frank injury on the bottom of his foot, and those injuries can completely debilitate you. It's actually the ligaments on the bottom of your foot, and they can take a year plus to heal. So I think you made out pretty well.
I really did. The surgeon did such a fantastic job. Now we're talking just almost, that was summer of 2020, June 20th of 2020. I feel nothing from it now. I'll always have a little bit bigger ankle, but I've got little hardware in there now. So, but I mean, I'm jogging 13 miles at a time. So they did a really good job.
And what hospital?
Rochester General here in Rochester, New York.
All right, friends. Once again, ask for Rochester Hospital if you want some good care.
So we know where to request if we get injured, Tumbles.
That's right.
Yeah. Send me to Rochester.
Right.
So did they attribute your quick recovery to being in such good shape? I'm assuming that had a lot to do with your ability to recover.
That, and I listened to directions really well. I didn't push it and I didn't under push it. I just did exactly what they told me, and I took it step by step with, everything they told me at physical therapy. They said, only do this, don't overdo it. And I didn't. I just listened to them. And as soon as they said you could put pressure on your foot, I put the pressure on my foot that they said I was allowed to do. And I didn't go beyond that until they said, all right, go that, now you can take a little bit further. And then start going to local parks and start taking walks. Because the first 3 months, I didn't walk at all on my foot. There was no pressure put whatsoever on it during the healing process, which sucked.
It sucks.
Yeah.
I bet.
Taking a shower was the worst. I actually had a little handicap chair put in my shower.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for people who are so active, how did you do mentally with that?
I didn't do very well.
bet.
I was on Instagram a lot. I was talking to my friends as much as possible, send me photos like crazy. I ended up gaining weight and eating junk, and it was a bummer, but it is what it is, and I totally rebounded from it.
Yeah, and I bet that ankle and leg are stronger too.
Absolutely.
So how many peaks have you done since then, since your recovery? So in other words, how many peaks have you done with your new hardware?
Gosh, I did almost all of the 35. I've done pretty much almost another full round of the 46. Did the Cernak 6. I've done 5 ultras. I mean, I did 5 ultras this year, I think it is.
You're the Bionic Man.
Yeah, so...
They rebuilt you. They had the technology.
Even Brian was saying that recently on one of our really big bushwhack hikes. He said, what happened to you this year? I'm like, I just turned into a monster.
So tell us about your ultras. Like how, where...
Can we first talk? Can we finish up the 46 first before we go on to ultras? Okay, because I'm really excited to hear about the winter 46 before we go on to the awesome ultras that you've done. So... I mean, tell us all about the winters. What are you thinking? You were talking with Brian, hikes all day and night. Yeah, please, go for it.
So, almost all the advice that Brian gave me about the way to dress has been spot on. He's a great person to talk to about it. He's had some great people that he learned from. I always thought going out in the middle of winter, you're just bundling up like crazy, and that's really not the case when you're trying to do this type of hiking. If you're peak bagging, you're dropping down to just base layers and practically underwear running up these mountains.
Yes.
And that was something really mentally I had to get over a bit as I was learning how to do this. I was like, it just seems silly to have to dress like that, and I couldn't believe it worked.
So how many layers basically do you normally do?
I actually carry only like 3 layers, and I start off in just a pair of snow pants with the long johns, pretty much just like thermal underwear and just a base layer top, and I go off.
Oh wow!
And I add layers as I'm going, depending on the temperature of my body. I start off really cold. And get my body temperature up to the point where I know I need an extra layer on, whether that's in the first mile or in the next 10 miles that I decide that I need another layer on top.
Yeah, I don't do that. I need to start doing that.
Yes, it's weird. It seems counterintuitive to not bundle up and go out, but you've got to get your body temperature up, so your sweat, you're balancing that sweat that you're building up out there so you don't get all that sweat freezing on you. You want that stuff to wick off of you.
Right.
And the only way to do that is to get as low of layers as possible. Keep your body temperature up, though. That's the other thing, which is so weird, is winter hiking, you don't stop a lot. You go.
Right.
You just continually go. And that's a weird thing for people's legs that are not used to it, is to stop. You got to keep moving.
Because when you stop, it's when your body temperature starts to fall, and that's when you start to get cold. So that I totally get. But, Tumbles, we should reverse our approach, because what we do is I don't go crazy. Tumbles kind of does, but I do a moisture wicking shirt, a base layer, and then like a Gore-Tex jacket, and then I take stuff off as I'm going. So you're saying do the opposite. You're saying reverse
do the
that.
opposite. Yeah.
Okay.
This way you can balance it out, your body temperature, and just get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And you don't have sweaty clothing. You have
Yeah.
sweaty clothing around.
You don't want to be sweaty in the first mile of a winter hike. That would just be horrible for the whole day.
That's also got to say, because that is what happens. Like, I sweat and then I bring extra stuff to change into, so I have dry stuff, so that would save on weight as well. Okay, so we will try that. Our next winter, don't know what it will be. What have we done winter-wise so far? Just,
Porter and Cascade.
Yes. And then
those are fun ones, though.
They are, yeah. It was like the beginner's guide to winter hiking in the ADK.
And then we attempted Whiteface, and that didn't quite work.
We were like maybe, I don't know, 200 yards away from the summit, and I went numb.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because where the trail meets the road, you're supposed to go vertically up this rooty, rocky slope, but It was completely ice covered, and I didn't have my ice axe with me. So we're like, all right, let's go onto the road and do the last, I don't know, quarter mile on the road. But the wind tunnel got so bad that I said, you know what, I can't do this. I can't feel anything. So
yeah.
I'll wait.
That's all right. The mountain's still there. You'll get to go back.
That's it. So with your Winter 46, what did you start with?
What did I start with? Which one was my first? Big Slide. I had found some random group on Facebook, and I asked them if I could join them.
Oh, all right.
And they were super friendly. They're like, yeah, come on out. And turned out that they were all foreigners, and they spoke a completely different language, but they could type in English. So it was interesting walking with these people the whole day. But that was my first real experience of a high peak. It was Big Slide.
Oh, how cool.
What language were they speaking?
It was some Mediterranean language.
Obviously hear a lot of French up in the high peaks because
these were not Frenchmen. I would have totally recognized a Frenchman spitting it. Did I say that? But I totally would have recognized a Frenchman. Jeez, yeah, it was some Mediterranean type accent. It was very difficult working with them, trying to communicate. Nobody really knew what I was saying. I had no clue what they were saying, but we knew to go up. Yep. And we knew where to butt slide down, and it was perfect. So
lots of hand gestures, and you understand the curse words.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a beautiful day. It was just awesome, and it was one of those days too when we were walking up. The snow was covering all the items. All the the trees looked like snowmen. Just the way they were just puffed up together and whatnot. It was just such a beautiful experience, and we were just having fun, just running off into the deep snow and stuff like that, just for fun, coming up to our waists. And winter hiking can be a blast, even if you can't speak with the language of the people that you're with.
Were you doing snowshoes for your first?
Yes.
Okay, you were. Good. So I'm sure it was impassable if not.
Yes. I was going to say, that just goes to prove that this hobby and hiking you already have a common bonding experience. We talk about it all the time when you meet people out there. It's very different than meeting people on the street. People on trail are much easier to talk to because you already have something in common. You're connected with nature. You've got endorphins. You got dopamine going. So this takes it to a next level where you don't even have to speak the same language, and you are enjoying their company and bonding over, climbing a high peak. That's absolutely incredible.
I chat with people all the time on the trail. I don't know about you guys, but I love talking to people on the trail.
Yeah, we say hello to everyone.
Yeah, can't help it. Everyone's generally, I have not met a real nasty person on the trail ever. Everyone's friendly.
During COVID.
Yes.
Well, all right.
That's different circumstance, though.
True enough.
And that wasn't in the high peaks. That was on some populated sections of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, I heard some people got mouthy in the high peaks as well, but it is what it is.
Okay. So what do you use for gear? We talked about snowshoes. What brand of snowshoes, and then any other special winter gear like ice axes or crampons?
Let's see. I have my snowshoes. I have a couple pairs of tubs.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I do love my tubs. I wear a North Face overall pants. I like overalls. I don't like pants. I do have a little bit of a belly, so if I wear pants, my pants tend to fall down a little bit. If I wear overalls, they don't. And that works great in the winter. Nobody wants to see my butt crack either. so it totally works out. Crampon wise, I have a set of black diamond crampons, but I also carry my Hill Sounds and I carry my Catula micro spikes. I try and carry all three of them generally, especially in the deep winter. You really don't know what you're going to get into.
Yep.
You don't always need the Catulas. Sometimes you don't even need the trail crampons by Hill Sound, but you just need the Catulas. I haven't run into a case where I've needed my full crampons, but I got them with me. Yeah, I just got to be prepared. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So what were because the conditions are totally different. The mountains look completely different in the winter. What were your favorite and least favorite winter 46s?
So far.
So far.
I have not had a least favorite. I can't say I've had a least favorite on my winter 46. Has there been anything? No. They've all been kind of fun, and I've gotten to do them with different people. But the most interesting one I did was my first time hitting Haystack after my injury, returning. It was a return hike in the winter. That's where I actually met Brian and his ex and a bunch of the guys. Jonathan Zaharik, I had met him, and Billy on Haystack Mountain in 70-mile-per-hour winds, 50-foot visibility. It was so nasty out that I was standing on Little Haystack and ice was building up on me. Wow. And I was just standing there waiting for Brian and everybody to show up. And they were thinking that there's no way this guy, Tony Montana, made it. And sure enough, here I am standing at this icicle, standing on top of Little Haystack, and we all climbed up a big haystack together. And that was a fun time. It was the first time we all got to meet each other, and we're just doing it in such epic weather conditions. I mean, it really was 50-foot visibility. It was just wild to be in such a snow globe like that.
I can imagine.
But we did it.
Wow. I mean, was that a solo peak, or did you do a few that trip?
That was just a solo peak for myself.
Okay.
That was one of my first high peaks back after I did Big Slide, and then I did that one just to see if I could handle something as big as Haystack was.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was still early back when I was recovering from the injury, so I was really taking it easy and just trying to do what I could.
I love that. Taking it easy.
Take it easy.
Yeah, Haystack Mountain.
Yeah, Haystack with 70-mile-an-hour winds, snow squall. Just a nice, easy hike to get back into it.
Yeah, it was such a ridiculous day. But we all remember it. It really was ridiculous. And their group did, Saddleback, Basin, and Haystack that day in all that kind of conditions. And I just went out for just Haystack just to meet them there. Those guys are freaking monsters that day.
They are.
Jeez.
Oh, my gosh.
That's insane.
There is a peak, and I forget the name, the most remote high peak in the Adirondacks.
Allen?
Is it Allen? Have you done Winter Allen yet?
I I did do a Winter Allen. I
And
did it actually last year.
that is a long day, even in the summer.
Yeah, that's one that to do that multiple times, not just for your 46. You actually have to like Allen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Allen's actually a really cool hike if you think about it.
Okay.
You do Allen in the morning, you get to see the mist coming up off of the lakes as you're going out there. You get to see the mountains in the distance. I mean, it really is actually a really beautiful hike. It's just out there. It really is. It's a long one. It's a 20-mile day.
Mm-hmm. So
but,
how is that in the wintertime?
That was, I didn't hit it on a good day. I hit it on an okay day.
Okay.
I saw Brian Hike's all day video when they were doing like 25 miles per hour down the slide on Allen. And I only hit like 10. It wasn't that fast for me. But it was a good learning thing, especially with the layering. Being able to go that kind of distance and coming back to the car still dry at the end of the day. And working the layers like that, starting off and just being in base layers and staying dry the whole day was just such a phenomenal feeling at the end of the day. Allen's a fun one, though. I'll do that one. If you guys want to go do Allen, I'll do it with you right now.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, let's do it. Yeah, I am really curious to try that reverse. Well, I'm calling it reverse, but for you, it's normal. That reverse layering system this winter.
Yeah, it's going to be a game changer for you.
Okay.
We will attribute all this to you and Brian. Thanks to them, we didn't die out in the cold.
Just bring your layers. Don't forget your layers.
Yes, sir.
Before we circle back to your ultras, first of all, your pictures of Nippletop and Haystack on Instagram, your Instagram pictures are some of the best that I've seen. If I dare say so, they rival Jonathan Harrick's photos. Like, you do a phenomenal job with your Instagram.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't like to just toss everything up there, just only the ones that are good, you know?
Yes.
Quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
And it looks like when you went, was kind of around the same time that we did with the foliage. You almost can't get a bad photo.
Oh, God, right? Unbelievable.
Yeah. So I was doing a little bit of Instagram stalking yesterday to prepare for today, and I was like, wow, this guy's photos are fucking awesome. So well done. But I did see that, and I wanted to ask you about, you posted that you were gifted a 1975 guide to the Adirondacks, and you had commented that it kind of made you sad because things have changed so much and there's places you can't get to. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, just coming to mind is that this book actually came with a great map. It's not even torn. It still looks like the original map. It probably is the original map from that year. And there's a trail system that just immediately comes to mind. And there's the old yellow trail that used to take you from the Upper Works to Marcy. There's a valley, in all essence, that goes between Cliff and Redfield. And that is an abandoned trail system. That got abandoned right around 74, 75-ish time frame. The DC decided that they were no longer going to attempt to maintain this anymore, and has forced everybody pretty much to go around the floodlands and go around Cliff and Redfield to head towards Marcy. It is an area that I want to explore. I've only done a very little bit of exploring in that area. There's supposedly old trail markers that you'll be able to still find on the trees, and remnants of old roads that used to go through there from the logging industry back in the day. It's kind of wild, but it's unfortunate that they just stopped maintaining it. They just let it go back to the wild. It's kind of a cool valley from what I've gathered, from what I've been in as it is. Just the little sections I have gone and bushwhacked up to. There's other nifty things, too, that is different, too. The map shows Mount Marshall on it, and it is named Mount Clinton. If anyone realized that Marshall once before it was named Mount Clinton. It was also called Herbert for a period of time as well before it became Marshall. It's kind of nifty. There's old trails that went to the summit of Mount Holden that are no longer on any of the maps, that are on these old maps that have been abandoned, that you can still to this day do, but it's pure bushwhack here. I mean, we're talking almost 50 years later.
Yeah, for sure.
I was going to say, that's got to be really wild checking that out 45 years later just to see, because we always wonder, especially like on the AT, we always wonder, like, if people just suddenly stopped hiking, how long would it take nature to reclaim this? And, you know, our rough guess is probably within 5 years the trail would be gone. So I'm imagining that, like, there's not hardly anything left of the trails themselves, but that's pretty cool that there's like trail markers and stuff there, and the roads are probably still there, but that's got to be a really, really wild trail. If you ever do explore that, I'm looking forward to the photographs and if you do a video.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it'll be something. It's an area that we want to explore a little bit more, and you know, it's kind of cool. It's the old Twin Brook Trail, they called it. So we'll definitely be hiding in and out of there and going back over to like Cliff Slide, because you can access that from that area as well. Definitely, you'll be seeing some stuff.
Oh, excellent. On that map, do you recall if Giant is called Mount Giant of the Valley?
Giants of the Valley? I'll look here, actually, real quick. Everybody, I take you didn't realize that was the official name?
We had to put an addendum to our last episode because I don't know who we learned it from. Who were we watching?
Jonathan Saharic.
Was it Saharic? Yeah.
Special guest Brian Hikes All Day.
This map from 74 says just Giant Mountain.
All right, fine.
Giant of the Valley is supposedly the full name.
And that's why that body of water is called the wash basin, because it looks like if there was a Giant of the Valley, that little pond would be a perfect spot for him to dip his face in and wash his face up.
Yeah, I get that.
I like the stories. The anecdotes are fun.
Yes. Okay, and then the other thing that I saw on your Instagram that I was curious about was the Taconic Crest Trail. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Ferns. That's what comes to mind. Ferns. That's like 38 miles of ferns. There's more ferns on that trail that I've been on that I've ever seen on any trail. Okay. Taconic Crest Trail, the hardest thing about that is really the distance, to be honest, and the fact there's no real water along that whole route. Okay. About halfway through the route when we did it, I did it with my friend Jeff and Sonia, S&J Hikes All Day. You can find them on Instagram as well. Real awesome folks. They're freaking awesome. Just an awesome couple, super positive folks, and just as gnarly as the rest of us. We did this together, and we were just bored, to be honest. It was we felt it was a very boring hike. The hardest part of the hike was the distance. There is a section of the Taconic Crest that is actually like ATV trails. It just ruts and whatnot. It just, some spots that, I mean, really it could be rerouted to make it look better. We didn't have much good to say about this freaking hike, other than we had to do it just to work on the Northeast Ultra 8.
Yeah, I mean, I took a few years ago, I came across that trail. I said, Crank was looking for a through hike that we could do maybe in a weekend. And that popped
cool.
up. Yeah, that popped up. So I was like, sure, why not? Well, I mean, now I'm hearing it from the horse's mouth. If it wasn't that fantastic, then I'm not going to bother.
As an ultra hike, it is just the most boring thing. I mean, you're just moving. You're just going. There's nothing really to see. It's all wooded. Sometimes you went to there's some road. You walk some road, and then you're back in the woods again, and it's just covered woods, but the ferns, there's tons of ferns. If you love ferns, there's ferns the whole way. Jeff complained about the ferns because he couldn't see his feet half the time.
So where does it run, like end to end? Where exactly is this thing?
God, it's just outside of Albany.
Okay.
Catches a little bit of, I have to bring up the map for that one. It catches a couple little states there all at once. I will say the other thing that I really didn't like about this hike was that I lost my car keys on it. Thankfully, my friend's vehicle was at the end. Mm-hmm. And we got to his car and we're going over to hit my vehicle and I'm looking for my keys. And sure as hell, I lost my keys somewhere on that trail. I was so mad. I was so mad. I grabbed my backpack and I tossed it across the parking lot. I was just upset. Yep. There is no
understandable.
My friends just looked at me. They're like, "Yeah, that's all there was to it."
Justified.
Yes, totally justified. So how'd you get your vehicle back? Like, did someone bring you a spare set?
Yeah, my sister's an angel. She dropped what she was doing, drove to my house, fed my dog, got my spare key, drove out to Albany, picked me up, took me out to my car. She saved me. Yeah, it's the only reason I keep her around. She's a good sister.
Yeah, good reason. All right, so we'll mark that off the list, Crank. Now to Conic Crest.
Okay.
All
right, crap.
Good.
Well, I'm glad we know, but I was hoping like you would have some really awesome stories about it. But that's okay.
I really wish I did.
That's all right. You did good on your story dangling from the helicopter getting whacked by trees. So. Let's circle back to your ultras. So
yeah.
We've done the Philadelphia Marathon. We attempted an ultra. Didn't work.
We failed. We only did 20 miles, and it was a 40-mile ultra. But well. Well, let's see. During pandemic, I did the 24-hour challenge. So it was like 4 miles. What was it? Every 3 hours or something. Every 4 hours. So it was like my first overnight, and I hated every second of it. Wanted to be asleep.
I remember going back and forth with you on that, and I absolutely loved the night stuff. You have to do 4 miles every 4 hours.
4 hours,
for 24 hours for that. So that's the closest that we've come to doing a legit ultra. But go ahead. What was your first? And I'm assuming
what got you hooked?
Yeah, what got me hooked?
Yeah.
So years ago, I did when I did my single season in 2019. I did the Great Range Traverse with a friend, just on a whim. Mm-hmm. She had reached out on Instagram. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I was like, I don't know if I could do that many mountains in one shot. I was like, that's 24 miles, 10,000 foot of gain. I don't know. And we did it. And 19 hours later, we were finished with it and just beat up. I was like, I can't believe we did this. And for some reason, I really liked it. So one of the things that I've been wanting to do since I was recovering from that ankle injury was to get back into doing these ultra hikes again. So this year we banged out a whole bunch of them, and I even did the Great Range Traverse once again. So we also did the Saranac Lake 6 as an ultra. I just got done doing the Cranberry 50. That was a very long hike. That one's actually a pretty hike for this time of year in the fall foliage and whatnot. They were trying to compare it to like the Taconic Crest Trail. I thought it was prettier than the Taconic Crest Trail. It was a little bit more interesting to look at.
Okay, good to know.
So, we also did the Taconic Crest Trail. We did the Devil's Path earlier in the year. We just really kind of cranked them out this year just to get as many of them done as we possibly can on the Northeast Ultra 8 list. At this time, I have 2 left. I have the Mahoosuc Traverse left and the Pemi Loop. Which I'm just right now I'm kind of planning that for next year. I did decide to sign up for a ultra marathon, 50-mile marathon in June, which I've never run more than 13 miles at a time. So I'll be training this whole winter. And so that's my next goal right now, is to do that. And then I'll finish the Northeast Ultra 8 is pretty much my plan.
That's awesome. That is
we should compare notes, because one of our goals is to get back into as close to marathon shape as possible.
Cool. Yeah, my practice my regimen is just I jog every day.
Oh, good for you.
That's it. You just got to keep doing it and keep doing it.
You're in much better shape than me, sir. Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
This time last year we did what the hell was it called, Tumbles?
Where are we
Vermont
talking?
half marathon.
Oh, that's right. The Von Trapp half marathon.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
In Stowe. Yeah.
So that's a half marathon. There just happens to be a 2,000-foot mountain in the middle of it.
Oh, it just happens to be there.
Yes. So that's the kind of shape that we were in last year, and now like we're both like training for a 10K. We
have a
definitely
10K on Saturday. I'm dying.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
really?
definitely fell off the running wagon. So the fact that you're out there running and jogging every day,
I am. Yeah, it's
determination
it's
and dedication is admired.
Thanks. I actually, I've been working on my weight and physical health and everything this year. I lost 70 pounds this year.
Well done.
Just in this year alone.
With all your ultra hikes, I would hope so.
Right. And it's really just been light exercise and jogging and hiking. That's all I've been doing, and watching my diet. And it all just falls off, and all of a sudden you're hiking in further distances and you're jogging further distances, and you breathe easier, and you're not that guy at the top of the mountain breathing like crazy. Maybe a little bit, but, at least you can talk.
Yes.
Well, for the majority of people, that's what it is. Go into a slight calorie deficit and exercise.
Yeah, it doesn't take much.
Really hard at the desk job, though. I gotta tell
Yes.
you, it is so hard because those
Yes, it
treats
is.
are right there, and you get bored and you want a snack.
I work at home. I work from home. The fridge is right there.
Yep.
And I've got it stuffed with like not vegetables, but fruits. Just tons of fruits in there. Trying not to cheat.
What did you think of Devil's Path? Because
I thought Devil's Path was cool.
Yes, it has a reputation. I think its reputation is overblown. It's supposedly the most dangerous trail in the North.
I heard that.
Yeah, which I think is nonsense. But how long did it take you guys, and what were your overall impressions?
So that was let's see. We did it with sprinkles, so we added Southwest Hunter and Hunter Mountain and the Fire Tower in the Devil's Path.
You are
ultra
badass.
Yeah, we're just like, let's just do it. And we did it. So we ended up out there, I think, like 19-ish hours or so. We really took our time. We could have done it in numerous hours faster, but we kind of enjoyed ourselves a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Took breaks when we wanted to. And the only thing that we didn't like was after the very last mountain that you go over, there's one more little freaking mountain. That little mountain just makes you mad. You're just like,
What direction did you take it from?
Let's see. What is the name of that?
There's
East
Indian
to West,
Head.
I think we did it.
We started at Indian Head.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's the same way. That's where I started it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how most people take it.
Yeah. And I thought it was a really cool hike. Catskill's a little funny. You don't get like the monster views like you get in the Adirondacks, but you still get really cool views. You just got to work for it a little bit more. But the terrain, some of the rock formations on the Devil's Path and the boulders and stuff is so cool.
And the roots.
Some of the roots, holy cow. The Devil's Path is probably, to me, is the best part of the Catskills. Has the best mountains, has the best terrain. A little bit slick when it's in early spring, when it's a little bit icy and whatnot. But I think it's probably the coolest spot in the whole Catskill region.
I would agree.
We agree, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And props for doing it in a straight shot and adding the fire tower. Getting tumbles up to that fire tower has been on the list, but we did it in 2 days. We stopped at the campground, so the fact that you guys did it in one straight shot is freaking awesome. Plus the fire tower, plus your detours. So, how many miles was that?
How many miles did that end up being?
Gotta be over 30
check
something.
My saved activities. Devil's Path.
Standing by for Devil's Path mileage.
I got 29.4 miles.
Oh, I was close. I said 30.
Yeah. So it pretty much was a 30 miles with 9,000 foot of gain.
That's awesome.
That's
really cool.
I mean, that's a great range traverse.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Great range is technically more like 24.
So it's even less. Okay.
It's less mileage.
But more,
but
gain, just about the elevation.
But there's more gain on the Great Range. Okay. It's 10,000 foot without question on the Great Range.
I got you. Okay.
And that's not adding anything in extra.
Okay. Cool. All right, Tumbles, do you have any other questions?
I do. I'm curious about your slide experiences.
Oh, yeah. How could
I mean, Crank's been talking about these slides for months now, and that's the one thing
I know.
That's the one thing I forgot to add. Jesus Christ. All right, worst podcast ever.
Brian doesn't want me to talk too much about slides.
I understand.
Okay.
Because he has a lot to say. He really does, and he is so passionate about it. But I will totally talk a little bit.
Okay. All right. Give us the sneak preview, please.
God. So slides are just fun. Something that you'll probably be seeing us doing a little bit more is actually wearing more proper gear. We got talked to a little bit about it, and we will be seeing us wearing helmets on them. And you should be wearing helmets on them, to be honest. We have been on a few slides where there has been stuff falling down.
Okay.
It happens. It's the nature of the beast, and we should probably all take precautions to make sure that we're safe while doing things that we want to have fun doing.
Absolutely.
That being said, slide climbing is a lot of fun. I didn't think I'd be into it as much as I got into it. You know, I have a problem with heights. Mm-hmm. You know, like I have a hard time climbing even just fire towers. People always laugh, like, how can you climb mountains? I'm like, it's not the same. I got ground underneath of me. It's pretty solid walking up to these mountains.
Yeah.
You know, but hanging over cliffs, that's not my gig. But for whatever reason, the slide climbing just really bit me. I had, previous to what me and Brian had done this year, I had only been on the Macomb slide, and that's just a gravel slide. I find that not that difficult. Others will have different things to say about it. But it's really just like a gravel slide, and some of these other slides are just flat pieces of rock at nice 45 plus degree angles. Something really cool is every 50 feet you turn around and you got these views. You're just like, oh my God, the views just got better. Oh my God, the views just got better. They just got better. You got to turn around again. You know, it's just so much fun.
For those that don't know what a slide is, it's basically a rock wall, and sometimes you can get away with just using your feet, but a lot of times it's your 4 points of contact right there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So it's an area. I'm sorry. It's an area of a mountain that the soil and all of the vegetation has eroded away from, usually caused by hurricanes or tropical storms. Sorry, I'm
Merriam-Webster's.
Yes. So you're just left with a slab at a 45, 50 degree angle. So, yeah, and I know that Brian in his videos has said, I'm not telling you how to get here, and he starts them because usually you have to bushwhack, and this is why we need to get a GPS, Tumbles. But yeah, so there can be very dangerous. So I know that he's been cautious about the information he's been giving in his videos.
Yep. It's all the information's out there if you want to search for it.
Yes.
And if you pay attention to the descriptions in the videos, you can probably figure it out yourself. But he's not going to actually give you the GPS tracks to get to that spot. That being said, though, it's part of the experience.
Yes.
Climbing is to bushwhack out there and go in places that you're not normally going to see, and that's really kind of what I want out of hiking right now with the Adirondacks. Is just hike it differently, so I can see everything else that this park has to offer, that these mountains have to offer. There's 4 points on the compass, and there's 4 ways up a mountain.
I like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Have you done any of the whites? Is there any interest?
I have only done the Presidential Traverse as an ultra. I did that back in 19, and it was freaking cool as beans. It was really wild being above tree line the whole time. It was fantastic. It was something really cool that I hadn't really gotten to see previous in my life. So I do want to get out there and get more done. Obviously with the Pemi Loop, I'll get a little bit more done. Eventually I'll work towards the 48 and get the 48 patch done and whatnot. Not in a hurry for it, though. There's plenty of time in life to get everything.
So this is not a video podcast, but if it was, I would have just given a marvelous display. When you mentioned that you have an issue with heights, yet you are in love with slides, that gave me a lot of hope, because I have severe acrophobia. I don't like going up on ladders. I don't like going on my roof to clean the gutters.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so you're the same way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
Okay.
This one time, I went on vacation in Ireland and with a friend, and she wanted to go to this rock that was on the ocean off of Ireland. And the only way to this rock was this 300-foot rope bridge. You could smell the poop coming out of me. I was so scared going across this thing. We got over to this rock, and she's like, come over to the edge and take pictures of me. I'm like, there's no way. I sat in the middle of this rock. I wouldn't get near the edge at all.
Yep.
Oh, God, my legs were shaking like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So Half Dome is not for you.
I don't know if Half Dome's for me.
Okay.
Maybe if I was chained up.
Yeah.
I had an issue with Half Dome. I got about almost halfway before the acrophobia really kicked in, because I'm assuming you're similar. My issue is exposure. I don't like exposure.
Yeah, I don't like the exposure either.
But you're okay with the slide. So that gives me hope, but can you explain that? How does that work?
So I think one of the factors is that I've been doing a bunch of slide climbing. I have kind of grown accustomed. I kind of went from easier slide climbing and gotten to a little bit more harder slide climbing and steeper slides. Okay. And over that time, I think I've grown accustomed a little bit to being used to being on a slide with that exposure. And I only say this because I've been scared of doing the trap dike. And we recently did the trap dike. And when we got to the slide, I was nowhere near as scared of the exposure as I thought I was going to have. I felt it felt easy.
Okay.
I don't want to say the trap dike's easy for anybody who's listening, because the trap dike is not truly an easy hike. But once I got to the exposure spot, I think because I had been putting myself previously in positions like that, it wasn't so overwhelming feeling. And the slide was still like the ground. It's still very solid. It's still, my hands were able to touch it, whether it's 4 points or just 2 points. I felt solid. I never felt like I was going to slide and fall down the mountain.
Okay. And was that with just normal, trail runners, or did you have climbing shoes?
Trail runners.
Okay.
I think I've been going between my Ultra Lone Peak, and I have a pair of Hoka Mafate trail runners that I've been swapping back and forth, and I've been very comfortable on the slides with them. They both have the Vibram soles on the bottom, which are pretty grippy as it is, so I haven't had much of an issue with those.
Which do you like better, the Ultra or the Hokas?
I like the Hokas more for running.
Okay.
I can't run a long distance in the zero drops on the Ultras. For
Makes
whatever
sense.
reason, I just can't run the distance. I know some people can. I got a few friends that can run in sandals for like a 50-mile race running a pair of sandals, which I think is unbelievable. But
Yes.
for running, I need the Hokas with a little bit of cushion.
Okay.
But some of the bushwhacking and some of the side climbing, the Ultras felt great. Just the way they handled and the way they kind of folded up and whatnot. And easy to maneuver your feet around a little bit and grip onto things. So both of them have been good.
That's very
Okay.
good to know.
I think we have covered everything. Do you have anything else that you want to add or talk about, Tony, before we wrap up?
Oh, gosh.
Any trail tale?
Yes.
Any trail tales?
Besides you hurting yourself and getting airlifted.
God. We still talk about that all the time. I actually have a GPS now because of that incident. I have one of those Garmin SOS beacon things.
Yes,
that
very
in reach
helpful.
so I can text people and whatnot. And ever since I got it, I've only used it once, and it was actually to get a hold of Brian because he was late to a hike.
Okay.
Who the hell are you, dude?
So what time of year was that again that you...
It was June 20th. I was
Okay.
doing it for the summer solstice.
Summer solstice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was actually supposed to do the whole Great Range for the summer solstice, and it turned out to be just sunrise on Marcy and then broke my leg.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, because that was my question. If that's going to happen, I guess June, July, August would be an optimal time, because if you're sitting there in November, December, waiting for rescue, getting cold, hypothermic, so I'm glad you didn't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. But I'm sure if that happened, those rangers, they're pretty awesome up there. They will take care of you, and you'll get out 100%.
All right. So yeah, unless you have anything else specific, Tony, let's wrap it up. But this was absolutely fantastic. And we should link up. Like, we'll let you know when we're going to be in the area, and if we can make it work, that would be awesome to link up with you.
Awesome. Sounds great to me.
Yeah, Tony,
Fantastic.
can you give all of your socials, please, so people know where to find you?
You know, let's see, I have the Instagram at Tex Montana, TEX Montana, just like the state. You can find me on Facebook. It's just Anthony Montana on Facebook. Pretty easy to find me there, too. You'll see a hiking icon there to make it easy to find me there. Other than that's really all. You're going to find me on the trail. That's about it.
All right, folks, I encourage
Fantastic.
y'all to go follow Tex on the gram. As we said, quality over quantity. His photos are fabulous. And
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming on. Oh, so pleased. And of course, folks, you can find us on the gram as well. Rocks_and_roots_pod. Crank has been killing it with the TikToks lately. Rocks_roots_podcast. All of these episodes are also on YouTube under the same name. We have an email. We don't check it. I mean, if you want to send us an email, just like maybe DM us to let us know you sent us an email. It kind of defeats the purpose, but whatever. Anywho-ha, we love you. We like you. We hope to see you soon. And that is ciao.